Shalom, shalom. Good evening, everyone. How are you? Nice to see you. Thank you so much for coming. God bless you. Thank you, Malka. God bless you. Today we're doing Ilchot Shabbat. We're speaking about the prohibition of cooking on Shabbat. This subject relates to all of us, and a lot of details. People have usually questions. And so, Bezrat Hashem, Seven Atzliach. Let's start with the story about Shabbat, and then we'll go to the details. In the end of World War II, okay, 1950, a few survivors were left in Poland and couldn't leave Poland because right after the war, the communist regime took over and closed all the gates and didn't let people to leave Poland or any other of the Soviet Union to Israel or to any other country that they wished. So, but on 1950 there was a little crack, and people were able to escape Poland. They went on a ship. The ship stopped in Venice, Italy. Okay? Over there, in Venice, they got there on Friday, and on Shabbat, which is the first day that they, a lot of merchants came to the port to sell all their merchants to the people in the ship. Things that they didn't see in Poland, and it was Shabbat, and it was very difficult for them to hold on, to restrain themselves and not to buy. And so unfortunately they went and they came down to the port and started looking for something interesting. The most desired commodity that they found there was apples. People, Jewish people, they like to think business. In Israel, you don't have apples. You import the apples. In Europe, they're tasty, they're juicy, they're very good quality apples. So they decided that they will buy a lot of apples. Every case of apples would contain 5 kilos of apples, and everyone bought a lot of boxes of apples. Imagine yourself how many boxes of apples they bought. So, and they brought them to their cabin, There was this man that told this story by the name Rav Avraham Israel Ehrenberg Zal. He told this story. He was religious and he didn't want to buy anything on Shabbat. So people offered him, do you want, maybe we can offer you some money, we can lend you some money if you don't have the money, do business, chaval, He said, gently explained them, it's Shabbat, I don't want to violate Shabbat, I don't want to do business, it's okay. And he stayed in his cabin. Okay, so that same afternoon, in the evening, they got an order that they have to transfer all their belongings, all their luggages, baggages, whatever they had to another ship, because this is not going. It's not going to be this ship that's going to take them to Israel. Another ship will take them to Israel. So they had to remove all their stuff to the other ship. I guess the other ship was smaller, or I don't know exactly what. The captain saw that the cabins are filled with all the merchandise that they bought. He ordered them all to bring it down to the belly of the ship, downstairs to underneath, and to store it over there because he cannot have it stored in the cabins. So that's what happened. All of them, they took all their boxes, crates, whatever, cases of apples downstairs and stayed there. In the morning they woke up, they realized that the ship didn't leave the Venice yet. They didn't start sailing to Israel yet. They were stuck there. There was some kind of a delay. So one more day in there. It was already Sunday. Sunday, this rabbi that tells the story says, okay, now I came down to the port. I was also looking for merchandise. Maybe I can buy something. Today already there were no so much buyers because they bought already the day before. So the price of apples came so much down because there was no buyers. I did such a better deal. I bought so many apples and I brought it to my cabin and I covered it so no one, will realize that I have my, because it was, one of the few that did some business on Sunday, so they left it and it stays in the cabin. So Baruch Hashem, they left to Israel. They came there on Friday. The cargo stayed there. Whenever they came to release the cargo on Sunday, what did they see? Unfortunately, all their apples got rotten there underneath, in the belly of the ship. They couldn't do anything with this. They had to throw everything to the garbage. They felt so bad. But on the other hand, this rabbi they didn't buy it on Shabbat, but did his business on Sunday, profits so much from selling these juicy, special, good quality apples from Europe in Israel. And for him, it was a good beginning, of settling in Israel. He started in the right foot. So we say in Hebrew, shomer mitzvah lo yeda davar ra. Whoever observes the Shabbat or any mitzvah, okay, he won't be harmed from keeping the Shabbat or from doing the mitzvah. So, it's a nice story to start with. Today we're going to speak about the prohibition of melechet ofe or mevashel. Cooking, baking, or cooking, okay? This is what we're going to talk about today. And let's give a small introduction. On Yom Kippur, Moshe Rabbeinu came down from heaven with the second tablets, okay? He asked for forgiveness after the sin of the golden calf. He came down, Hashem said, Salachti kidvarecha, and it says in the next day, Parashat Vayakhel, in Sefer Shmot, it says, Vayakhel Moshe et kol adat bnei Israel. Moshe gathered all the Jews and told them, Ele hadvarim asher tziva Hashem la'asot otam. These are the things that Hashem ordered you to do. For 6 days, te'aseh melacha, you work, whatever you have to do should be done, and on the 7th, you need to rest. This is the first order. Second pasuk, okay? Lo tevaru esh b'chol moshavotechem. You are not allowed to kindle fire. This is the only av melacha that it's written that's not allowed. All the rest we learn from the melachot of Mishkan. And then, right afterwards, Moshe start telling them to build the Mishkan. Rashi explains that Moshe preceded the warning of the Shabbat to the order of building the Mishkan. Means that as long as Mishkan is not built yet, they cannot do all the preparations to build the Mishkan on Shabbat. It's not allowed to do it on Shabbat. And Ele hadvarim that he said before, these are the limited, the 39 belachot that we are not allowed to do on Shabbat. These are the prohibitions of Shabbat. And for example, in the Mishkan, in this temporary temple that they had in the desert, they needed to cook certain plants to extract color from it, to be able to color the skin of the deers that they surrounded the Mishkan with this. So because this was the Av Melacha, this was the thing, okay, that was not allowed to do on that they had to do for the Mishkan, it's not allowed to do it on Shabbat. We cannot cook on Shabbat, okay? This is this prohibition. Now, usually melacha that we're not allowed to do a work on Shabbat is a creating work that we're not allowed to do on Shabbat. We're not allowed to create something new that wasn't there before. Last time we spoke about electricity. We said that you are creating a circuit, okay, that wasn't there before, and it's not allowed to do on Shabbat. Besides, it said, Lo tevaru esh b'chol moshavatechem, and the light is the outcoming of fire. Today we're speaking about cooking. Cooking and kindling a fire, it's two different prohibitions, two different things, Okay, it's just that usually we cook with fire, okay, or with other type of heating stuff. We're going to speak about that. So basically, what does cooking do? What is this melacha of cooking? Cooking basically prepares the food, okay, improves it, upgrades it by heating. You know, you're taking a potato that is raw. You cannot really eat a raw potato. You cook it, okay, you make it better. You upgrade it. It's so much different now, right? Now you can enjoy. Because you improve this type of food. By cooking, you make it something totally almost different, and this is creating. And it doesn't matter how exactly we heat this food. Could be by cooking, by baking, by roasting, by frying or toasting, doesn't matter, okay? None of these things is allowed to do on Shabbat. And because by heating it, what it does to the food is the food gets softer usually, and all the taste that you put, all the spices or whatever you put in all the types of vegetables or other ingredients that you have added into the food, okay, starts to mix up and comes out as it heats, okay, it comes out totally different thing that was there from the beginning, and this is creating something new. So this is we don't do. Now, some food gets softened by cooking, like we said the example of the potato. You cook it, it becomes soft. Some things get hardened as you cook, like an egg. You put an egg into hot water, it becomes a hard egg. So, and also by roasting. In the roasting, in the beginning, it makes it soft, but then it hardens it, like the meat. Or even if you roast nuts, okay? In the beginning, it makes it softer, but then it becomes hard. So, also food that usually we eat them without cooking, for example, let's say fruits and stuff, if people cook them, it's not allowed on Shabbat, okay? And so it's not allowed to cook in fire, and also in the outcome of fire. For example, let's say I'll take a pan and I'll heat it very, very hot. It becomes very, very hot. Underneath there is a fire. It becomes very hot. But then I remove it from the fire or turn off the fire underneath. Now the pan is very, very hot. If I'll take an egg and I'll crack and fry an egg on it, it will become an egg, a scrambled egg, or whatever, omelet, whatever you want to call it. Because it's so hot, and an egg is something that's easy to cook. Okay? So not only on fire you are not allowed to cook, but also the outcome of fire, toladat ha'esh, also it's not allowed to cook, even though there's no really fire there right now. Also, microwave, it's not really fire, but because this is a common way that people today cook, also, or heat stuff with a microwave, this is not allowed on Shabbat as well. And now, as we start talking about cooking, let's explain two things. In cooking on Shabbat, there is the quality of the cooked item, and I'll explain that. And there's the quality of the thing that is cooking. The utensil, or not the utensil, the mean of cooking also. Okay, and I'll explain that. What could cook? What is the quality of the one that is able to cook? That whatever is cooked, you can see this term in Hebrew that keeps repeating in Hilchot Shabbat. Yad soledet. מה זה יד סולדת in Hebrew? If I have a hot tea and I touch it and automatically I remove my hand because it's hot, it's called yad soledet. Or for tea, for example, if I can drink it without blowing on it first to cool it down, okay, and I could drink it in one shot, it means it's not so hot. But if I have to wait for this to get cooled and then only then I'll drink, it's called that it's hot. Yad soledet. Yad soledet, I put the hand in there and I cannot hold it for a long time because it's boiling, it's hot. Yad soledet doesn't mean that it's really boiling. When they measure the temperature of Yad soledet, it's around 45 degree Celsius or 110 degree Fahrenheit. It's not really boiling, but it's getting there, it's hot. Also, when we speak about terms of bishul, of prohibition of cooking on Shabbat, so you will hear these things. Kli rishon. מה זה kli rishon? Kli rishon is the source of heat. I have the urn that contains the hot water that's connected, that's plugged to the electricity. Okay? This is the source of heat. It contains very, very boiling water. This is kli rishon. I have a pot of food on top of the fire or on top of the blech, okay? Or on top of the hot plate, okay? The cholent one or the osavo or whatever dish is going to have inside, this is the source of heat. This is called kli rishon, okay? Kli rishon, whether it's on the fire or even if I removed it from the fire, I just removed it from the fire, it could cook, okay? Therefore, I cannot put a raw egg into hot boiling water that was just removed from the fire because it will cook there, even though it's not in the fire anymore, okay? So kli rishon usually cooks. Now we have kli sheni. What is kli sheni? Kli sheni is the second utensil. So I have the urn, the hot water, and I pour boiled hot water into a cup. This cup is called kli sheni. This is the second one, okay? Kli sheni usually is not cooking. Okay? And soon we will explain how to make tea, how to make coffee, how to do some other stuff. But kli sheni usually does not cook except kalei bishul. מה זה kalei bishul? There are some things that are easy to cook, very fast to cook. Okay? We mentioned the egg before.
Instant stuff.
Huh?
Instant stuff.
Instant. Some say mint. Okay? Mint, leaves, kalei bishul, tea, some other stuff. We'll talk about this. And then there's kli shlishi. Kli shlishi is the third utensil, meaning I'll take from this cup that I had the tea, the hot water that I just poured it from the earth, and I pour it to another cup. This is called kli shlishi. Kli shlishi lo mavashel. It's not cooking, and you can put there all kind of stuff. We'll talk about this. Okay? Now we're going to speak about the quality of the thing that is cooked itself. There is a difference between food that is dry and food that is wet or, liquidy, like soup. Okay? There's a difference. Food that was not cooked from before Shabbat, we cannot cook it on Shabbat, נכון? Food that was dry, okay, that was cooked before Shabbat, like rice, dry rice, like pastries, burekas, gosh gija, dry things, okay? Even, let's say, dry chicken or chicken cutlets, schnitzel, okay, or yachni if it's dry, okay, not a problem to, or challah, you want to warm challah that is frozen from, okay, not a problem to warm it on the hot plate, כי אין בישול אחר בישול. מה זה בישול אחר בישול? Let's say, I'm talking about the dry things. Let's say I have rice. Let's say I have challah. I already baked it, okay? It's already cooked. Once I'm going to warm it, I don't change its status. Nothing changes there. You just get it warm. It's not changing. And bishul achar bishul beyabesh. In dry, there's no bishul. You cannot cook after it was done cooking. Belach, with wet, there is, okay? So, on with wet stuff, like let's say I cooked from before Shabbat the soup. It was cold. It became cold already. If it's cold, I cannot put it back into on top of the hot plate, okay, or on top of the blech, because yesh bishul achar bishul belach. Okay, bishul achar bishul, you could start cooking it again in wet, in something liquidy like soup. This we cannot put on Shabbat to a warmth that the yad soledet. Yad soledet means it becomes so hot that whenever it's wet, when you want to warm it, you want to improve the food, upgrade the food. You cannot eat food when it's soup that is very cold. You don't enjoy it. It's not. When it's hot, this is when everything gets mixed up. All the spices and everything. This is when it becomes so much better. It's interesting. The law of mevashel, the prohibition of mevashel is, and zorea is planting, are the only prohibitions from all the Rabbanit that at the minute that you do it, you're not really violating it yet, meaning nothing changes in the action. You do the action, but nothing is done yet. When you cook, you put a tea kettle that's with cold water on top of the hot plate, for example. It's cold. Nothing is really happening yet. By the time it's going to get cooked, it's going to get warm. So we'll be with planting. The minute that you plant, you don't do anything yet, but slowly, the seed is going to start, sprout and whatever. So if by mistake, let's say, somebody did put a pot of food that's not prepared, that's not ready, or half baked, or half ready on a hot plate or on a stove on Shabbat, okay, you're supposed to remove it from there, not to come to violation of Shabbat. You're supposed to remove it because you're going to save yourself from this problem. So as I said before, on Shabbat we cannot bake, cook, roast, or fry, and it's nothing to do. It doesn't have to be only food. We cannot melt. Wax or tar or all type of metals. Okay, so all these are not allowed to do on Shabbat also. We cannot, as I said before, I mentioned this, you cannot cook on Shabbat food that wasn't prepared 100%, was half baked, half cooked, and you took it out from the fire and put it back on fire. This, you cannot do it on Shabbat. Also, I want to mention something for people not to get confused. The law of cooking, the prohibition of cooking, has nothing to do with the prohibition of kindling a fire, lighting a fire. It's two different things. Some people, they get confused. On laws of Yom Tov, which is a holiday, you're allowed to cook from an existing fire. If you had a fire from before Shabbat, or you had a candles. Yeah, you took a fire from this. On Shabbat, on Yom Tov, you're allowed to do. On Shabbat, even if you had an existing fire from before Shabbat, you can never touch it and take fire from there and turn on your stove or something like that. Okay, even if you had fire from before Shabbat. So this is not allowed. Or you cannot add cold water to the urn on Shabbat. You cannot do that, and stuff like that. Okay, this I said already. Also, there is something that's called toladat chama. מה זה תולדת חמה? Let's say, people live in the desert, Arizona, let's say. It's very, very hot there, okay? Basically, on Shabbat, you're allowed to put, let's say you have cold water, and you're allowed to put it outside so that the sun will warm it a little bit. But just to warm it, it becomes lukewarm. This is not a problem. You cannot cook on something that's called toladat chama. Let's say if a car stays in the heat, in the sun for a long time, the metal becomes so hot. And let's say you want to to fry an egg on it, it will be fried. But you cannot use it even though you didn't open any fire, you didn't use any fire or anything. This we don't do. Also, what would be toladat chama? Dut shemesh. In Israel, we have dut shemesh. The tanks of water that's heated by the sun. Okay, we cannot open the hot tap water on Shabbat. Okay, because the minute that you open the hot water on Shabbat, you make more cold water get into the system, and they get hot. Okay, this we cannot do on Shabbat. We spoke about this last week too. You're allowed to bring water next to a heating source, okay, next to the plata, next to the hot plate, but not to the point that it will become so hot that yad soledet, that you cannot even touch it because it's so hot. To make it look warm, sometimes for kids you need to warm food, it's okay, but not to the point that it becomes so hot that you cannot touch it. You're allowed to heat dry stuff, like we said before, rice or pastries, borekas, or kugel, or stuff like that. These are dry stuff. Even to chom of yad soledet, when it's very, very hot, because it's dry, it's okay, no problem. But if it has sauce in there, it's a problem. So Rabbi says that if it has some kind of liquid, some kind of sauce, I should say, it's okay. You can warm it. But if most of it is very, very saucy, let's say you have fish that swims in sauce, this you cannot warm on Shabbat. But if you have yachni, dry chicken, that has some kind of, Rega. We spoke about, what did I say, yachni? The chicken that has some kind of, let's say, fat in there, okay? Even if this fat will be melted, it's okay to warm on Shabbat because most of it is dry and it's okay. Chulent, usually, we don't, if it wasn't on the fire from before Shabbat, we don't warm it on Shabbat because chulent is usually wet. Chulent has liquid in there.
For example, no?
But sometimes
Hold on a second.
yeah, it's not so much water.
Dry rice like bash, dry rice like let's say like white rice that has nothing in there, you cook it with some oil a little bit and mostly it's dry. It's not a problem to warm it at all. The food that you mentioned, some people do it very, very liquidy. It's not a good idea to warm it on Shabbat, the shola that you mentioned, because sometimes it's very liquidy. Has a lot of oil and water. Some people do it like soup. So this you cannot warm on Shabbat. Dry things you can warm on Shabbat.
But chulent, you cook it on Shabbat. It's not, you not warm it. I put in the slow cook and it's cooked.
Cholent you put before Shabbat.
Can, of course.
No problem. If you put it before Shabbat on the blech, it's not a problem to be cooked. Cholent, Esther, cholent is a food that's called mitztamek vetovlo. It's shrinking, it's getting drier, but it's good because it's getting better and better. The more it stays, the better it stays, the better it is. So this type of food, we put this from before Shabbat. We never put it on Shabbat. We put it from before Shabbat, and there was this back in Europe, Ashkenazi brothers, they always eat only cholent on Shabbat, right? So once a neighbor, a Gentile neighbor of this Jewish man asked him, how come you sleep so good on Shabbat afternoon? I also have a rest day. I'm trying to sleep. I cannot. He tells him, you're going to eat our cholent, you will see that you'll be able to sleep. So he ate it, he got the recipe, everything was okay. He told him, okay, I understand, I slept very well. Now I don't understand, how are you able to wake up from this sleep?
But Rabbanit, I have a question.
Yes.
They sell cholent by half like containers to people. Let's say on the time you buy the cholent. How do you warm it up the next day?
So, again, cholent is food that's called mitztamek vetovlo. The more it stays on the blech, the better it is. So, we're going to speak about what happens if you see that it's getting burned or something. We're going to speak about this. I'm just saying, you put this from before Shabbat on the blech, you add water and some spices and whatever.
But it's in a little container. You take it, they give you by a quarter pound.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot put that overnight. That's in a burger.
Usually it's not liquid.
To warm it up.
If it's wet,
It's wet.
It's like
not
the way
so
they
wet.
sell it. It's not that wet, but it's like soaked. It's a bit different. If they give this to warm up, that means it's, I don't understand how it's possible.
okay. Warming, sometimes you can warm it in a different way. We'll talk about this, how can you warm, let's say, for kids or stuff. But it's liquidy. It's liquidy. You cannot put it on the blech on Shabbat. You can put it on top, on top of another pot, to.
Let's say I put it on top of my teapot.
But not to come to the point that yatzolet.
Yeah. So you have to watch till it shouldn't get that hot.
The problem is that people forget, and all of a sudden the baby cries, all of a sudden you have to run to do this errand or at exactly what, so we don't do this stuff on Shabbat. You don't put and watch and see, yatzoledet, not yatzoledet. Usually we don't do this. But if you put it in a small pot, Baruch Hashem, years ago I had to put many eggs on Shabbat. Today I don't have to put so many eggs on Shabbat when I don't have guests, when my kids are not coming over. So you put a smaller, you put less stuff, and if you're scared, you don't have to cover the pots from on top and stuff, so it won't get burned or anything. There's ways to do. Last thing here about this type of stuff is. You're allowed to put even a frozen challah on top of the blech. Just be careful if it has ice particles or flakes or chunks of ice. This you first have to dry or remove or wipe, okay, and then to put it.
That wouldn't be boreh if you remove that?
Huh?
It's not boreh if you remove that?
That's a good question. Borel, well, I guess if you have to do it, the best thing to do is to remove this challah, in the morning when you get up, let's say. 2 hours later, there's not going to be anything on the challah, and then you can put it no problem on top of the blech, or on top of the pot, even you don't have to put it on top of the blech. Now, how do we make tea or coffee on Shabbat? This is something that a lot of people are asking. And so regarding tea, it's very important to prepare the tea essence before Shabbat. מה זה tea essence? You take either the leaves of the tea, or you take some bags of tea bags, okay? Either you cook it on top of the fire, or you pour boiled water. Some say it's not enough to pour boiled water from the urn. Boiled water that was just boiled now. This is the thing that you pour on top of the tea essence. You mix it, and it's good. It's very dark, okay? But it's going to be good for many cups of teas that you need for Shabbat, okay? This is the best to do before Shabbat, okay?
You're not allowed to use the bags?
Huh?
You're not allowed to use the bags? The tea bags?
Tea bags? I'm coming to it.
Okay.
If somebody forgot to prepare tea essence on Shabbat, so because tea is something that's called kalei bishul. Kalei bishul means that it's so easy to cook. So the way that we do tea is like this. First of all, I take a clean cup that is dry, that's not wet, okay? And I pour boiled water from the urn, which is clear rishon, into this cup that's called kli sheni, נכון? Okay? On top, I put the tea essence. On top. Not first the tea essence and then the tea. No. First the hot water, and then on top the tea essence. If I didn't prepare tea essence on Shabbat and I was to use a tea bag because there's nothing else, so I take this water from kli sheni, I pour it to another cup that's called kli shlishi, and over there I can put the tea bag.
That's how we do it, that's
Yeah.
how I wanted to.
But isn't that essence gonna be cooked by that cup that is in the clear?
They say kli shlishi lo mavashel. It's not
The other
cooked.
one.
Huh?
Let's say the essence that was prepared already.
So
You're putting it in a lot of hot water, this little essence, but the essence is gonna, you cook the essence,
no, you don't put the essence.
but it's watery, so.
Yeah, it's watery, but it was cooked from before, and you put just a little bit into this amount. Also, let's say you do coffee, okay? So coffee is the same. Coffee, first we put, okay, some people say, so we know usually that coffee beans are usually cooked, okay, before, נכון? The thing is that we do the same with coffee. You first take clean cup, dry cup, you pour boiled water, and then only you put the sugar and the coffee. Why? Because coffee, even though it's cooked before they sell it, okay, they cook it, the coffee beans, many companies, to enhance the aroma of the coffee, they leave some of the beans not cooked purposely, so that the aroma is going to be so much stronger. So there are some coffee beans that are not cooked. Therefore, we this is the way that we do coffee again. First hot water, and on top also instant coffee. Huh?
Do we do shlishi?
No, kli sheni is enough. Kli sheni. If you want to, shlishi is fine.
The coffee, you want to go on two, not called shlishi? You don't have to?
Instant coffee, instant. Into first hot water by kli sheni, and then sugar or the coffee, and then on top you can add the cold milk, no problem. Kli sheni. Okay? בסדר?
But not for tea.
For tea is shlishi, right?
For tea you need a shlishi?
If it's a bag.
For tea bag, it's kli shlishi.
Okay.
But tea, that if you have an essence that you prepare before Shabbat, kli sheni is good. Coffee, kli sheni.
What about the hot water? Also shlishi?
Ma.
Only hot water to drink.
It's usually kli sheni because you take it from the urn. This becomes kli
Okay,
sheni.
another question. The green tea.
Green tea.
Yeah, the leaves. Can I do it with the green leaves? The tea?
So do the tea essence before Shabbat.
I don't want to do it, or I forgot.
Let's say kli shlishi, can you put that in shlishi?
The tea, the leaves are the kli shlishi, I guess.
Yeah?
Kli shlishi.
What
Yes,
about if you do on the teapot? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
In the teapot, it's going to be kosher shields. I mean, to do with the cup, or you can do it the pot from the urn right away.
No. You take from the urn, you put it into this little tea kettle, okay? And, no, I'm sorry.
Into the cup.
It doesn't matter, and put it to another clip, doesn't matter which one. And over there, in the third utensil, over there you're going to add the leaves.
I heard that if you put it in the pot, if you do the tea in the pot, then you have to do klish sheni, not shlishi.
Again?
If
You
do it
said
in
that
the-
you didn't prepare the leaves, right?
If I put the leaves in the pot, not in the cup,
China.
it's supposed to be only from urn to the teapot, not with the shlishi. Not with the cups, with the teapot.
No. If with tea bags we do kli shlishi, definitely, kli shlishi, malka.
What about if I like my coffee very, very hot?
No.
If I'm going to do first cup, the second cup, so you
No,
know.
you don't use it for the first cup.
Just one cup. Hot
One
water.
cup.
Then the coffee you add.
First cup.
If you like very, very hot, so have your urn have the coffee itself. Okay. It says not to squeeze a lemon into a cup. Usually klishani, shayad soledet, because lemon is considered something sharp and it could cook in klishani too. So usually we don't squeeze it straight into klishani, the lemon.
אבל לסלט זה בסדר, כן?
Can you cut it?
Salat, it's not a problem. Salat, we do it on top of usually food also.
אוקיי.
Okay? For salad, it's good.
Going back to the tea, does the pot or the cup need to be dry?
It's better that it's dry. If it's not dry, let's say there's some particles of wet from before, you shake it as much as possible, and then you can use. This is a kula of, I think, Rabbanit or somebody. We used to dry these things, but they say if you shake it as much as possible, so until nothing comes out from the shaking, so you can pour hot water on top of this too. Yes.
If I'm drinking tea and like I have a little bit left and I want to add from urn to make it,
No.
I can
No. So another cup.
another kind.
Another cup, and then you could mix as much as you want. Okay. It's allowed to pour hot water from the urn into a thermos, okay, to keep the warmth of the water in the thermos. The thermos is called klisheni, okay, and from the thermos you could, you could use it afterwards to whatever you want. It's already klisheni, it's okay. More laws, on Hilchot Shabbat, on Mevashel b'Shabbat. Here's to the answer that was asked before about the cholent. We are not allowed to pour boiled water into a dish, okay, that is getting dry like a cholent. Or let's say you see that it's very dry or it's getting burned or something, even after it was removed from the fire, because if it was removed from it, it's still mevashel, it's still adayin in kli rishon, unless you transfer it to another dish, to another pot, then it will be okay to add over there. If you see that the food is about to burn, what you could do is put another pan underneath so it won't touch, the hot plate or the blech or something, or to put a different
But
maybe.
how are you going to do that? Because you're automatically picking it up.
Huh?
You're lifting it.
You're allowed to lift it to put something else?
Wait, let me explain something. The hot plate is there.
Right.
Or if you don't have the hot plate, you're speaking about the blech,
Right, the black is there with the oshtabot.
the blech is
But then
there.
I feel like it's burning. Can I pick it up?
Not the blech.
No.
No,
That pot
not the
comes out,
black.
put
The
another
pot-
black,
right,
and I put it back.
right.
It's okay?
Right. This is what it says. If you're afraid that it's going to burn, you're allowed to do.
That's the first thing.
But be careful not to put, meanwhile, this pot on top of the counter or on the floor or anywhere. You hold it in your hands all the time.
I've been told you're not allowed, that's why I never done it, but I wanted to know what's the difference, like you saying it's allowed, so I'm a little confused, that's why.
Okay. Yeah, Malcolm.
So if you have those on a medium fire, right, on the blech, whatever,
Mhm.
and then you have a small fire, and you see if this
What do you
one
mean
is-
small fire?
You
It's
have,
all covered.
it's all covered with the,
You said hot plate.
no,
No.
not hot, the
Black?
It's a long
Okay, I
one.
have two fire, the Oshsovo is on a medium, and the other fire, it's empty, it's small fire.
Mhm.
If I see this is burning, can I just put it on the small fire?
If okay, we're speaking about this soon. Depends if the food is mevushal kol tzorko or not, fully cooked from before Shabbat or not. This depends. Okay, we're going to speak about this soon. I'm going to answer that. It's better. Okay, this you asked me before. Okay, let's speak now about. There's something that's called hatmana. Hatmana means that you covering the food from all sides, you know, like under covers into the bed from all the sides. Is it okay to do it on Shabbat? On Shabbat, we cannot cover it completely from all sides, like to put it under covers into your bed or something. A dish of food, a pot that is very, very hot, that you just took it out from the source of heat, yad soledet, you cannot cover it this way, even with things that do not add steam. Usually, if you put covers on top of the food, it doesn't add steam. Years ago, they used to they could add steam to the food, you know, if you cover it from all sides with salt or with other things. Today we don't usually use this stuff. But even with things that do not add any steam, you cannot cover it so much. But if the food is not hot, or you transferred it to a different pot, then it says it's okay. It's okay to it's okay to put a hot dish into a heat retaining bag. You know, it's something that keeps the heat. Or let's say you have cold water. You want to put Coke into this cooler bag. It says it's okay. It's allowed to put covers on top of the dishes. On top of the pots that you have on top of the hot plate or on the blech, from on top, before Shabbat, it's okay, no problem. This is not called hatmana. Before Shabbat. This is not called hatmana. Hatmana is when it's covered from all sides. It's not really also recommended to cover from all sides, especially when it's a hot plate or plata, or a flame, or if you have the blech. Because then it can touch it, you know, the covers or something. God forbid, something bad can happen. It's not good. It's allowed. Okay, this is a question that I was asked last week by someone. It's allowed to put on Erev Shabbat on the hot plate food that is not fully prepared. Well, half cooked, not all the way. Meaning you can eat it, you not really like it. You know, if you want to eat challah, if you want to eat osovo, you like it when it's brown. You like it when it's, you know, ready, when it's there the whole night on the fire. But if you cook it before Shabbat, it's edible. You don't like it this way, but it's edible. Okay, so this type of food, you're allowed to put it on the plata. Before Shabbat, even though you know that it's going to continue cooking and, you know, getting better and better during Shabbat. Regarding stirring inside this type of pot, we're going to talk about this soon. Okay.
When I cover my food on a plata, hot plate, I have a special cover. And then before I go to sleep, I take it off Friday night. Am I allowed to do that?
To take it? Yeah, you're allowed, no problem.
But to put it back,
Yeah, you're
To
allowed.
put it-
I don't put it back, I don't put it back.
The question is, if she's allowed to take it, you're allowed to take it, no problem.
By putting it back, you're not.
No.
Not allowed to put it back next
But
day.
you're allowed
to
And then
move it.
add it later.
Yeah.
It's, okay,
You
Now-
want to move
there are some type of ovens that has Shabbat mode.
it. You see?
Wow.
Shabbat.
Shabbat mode. Now, I don't have this oven. I don't know how it functions. I don't know how it works. We don't use it.
Warmer.
I'm just saying, if it's just a warmer. So, on Shabbat, and Erev Shabbat, you're allowed to put a dish into this type of oven that it will continue cooking. You know, like you put it on a hot plate. It's okay. That it's going to, or warm it on Shabbat. The warmer, the difference between this and a regular oven is that the regular oven has a thermostat. Thermostat, it depends on the temperature inside. If you open the door of the oven, cold air comes in and it starts to heat. This we're not allowed to use on Shabbat. We cannot really put this on Shabbat.
And also the light.
Huh?
And also the light.
And also the light can turn on. Sometimes you could, let's say remove the light if possible, sometimes. But this we cannot do. This type of Shabbat mode, they have the same temperature the whole time. It's just that. So for this it says it's allowed to keep it, to warm the food in there, but you need to do some kind of a difference between this and regular days. And all the Hot Shabbat is like that. You have to put some kind of a difference. What do I mean? Either if you have knobs there, you remove the knobs or cover the knobs, or put aluminum foil that usually during the week you don't put, or do something so that you will see a difference between this and regular days. Also, let's say if you do have an oven that, let's say, doesn't have a thermostat inside. When you open the oven, you put trays, you take out trays, it looks like you're baking, and it's like a mundane type of work. And this we cannot do. We have to have some difference between this and Shabbat. So rabbis say either you have to do some kind of a difference. Either you have a different trays for Shabbat completely, so you know it's Shabbat, or as we said before, you change the knobs, or you remove the knobs, or you cover it, or you put aluminum foil, or some kind of a difference than other days, so it shouldn't look like cooking on a weekday.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If I have food that's on my blech, but my blech is very hot, so if I leave it overnight, it's gonna burn, right? Just it's a new blech, it's very hot. Am I able to pick it up and put it on a crate, on the stove crate?
What is a stove crate?
I don't know how to say it. You know where you?
On top of the stove, like on the opposite side.
The range.
Not on
Yeah,
the
those.
on
What's it
the
called?
Range.
The ribs. When you cook, you put your food on.
No.
Can I put that on the blech and pick up the pot and put it on that instead? That's not directly.
Oh,
The
she
pot's
wants to
gonna
put
She
the
uses half of the
ranges on
range.
top. so
On top of the
to
glass.
save it,
The difference between.
Yeah.
So that's what we said. If you put a metal, we said you put either a pan or some kind of something. Yeah.
And can I then put it back on blech?
No. Now this depends. If it's a dry food, it's okay to put it
No,
back.
it's water.
But if it's a watery,
No, it's not.
So it's not like baksh that's drier, that's allowed.
dreba, no.
But if she just picked it up, she didn't put it on the countertop, just picked
Okay,
it up.
but the reason is she doesn't want this to burn, so she doesn't want it to come to put it back.
I wouldn't mind if I do that overnight
That's
so
what I
that
do.
it doesn't burn, but before the meal, I would,
בסט
if I
של
could,
החמין
I
אני
would
אעשה.
ask if I could put it back on the
בלי
block,
כאב
make it
ראש.
If
really
it's
hot.
wet,
No.
no.
Okay, thank you.
We're allowed to put something that's really completely ready, dry, or let's say kugel, or buraikas, or challah that's wrapped with aluminum foil completely. This is not called hatmana. You're allowed to put it on top of the blech, no problem. It's not called hatmana.
Can you leave with the challah to warm it up on plata?
What?
Can you put the challah to make it crispy on plata?
On plata, you could. What do you mean crispy? When it becomes already...
No, I mean it's cold. Let's say from Friday to next day, Saturday. You want it to be a little warm.
to have the challah a little warm, it's not a problem. We said before, it's okay. But it shouldn't become roasted.
No, not roasted, but you know,
Warm, no problem.
If it did get roasted, you can't eat it?
If it did get roasted, it changed the essence of the bread. We're speaking about if it stays the same status, no problem. Okay? Let's say sometimes also there are some challahs that maybe are half baked, not they're whitish or still doughy because it's not really ready. You cannot really put that because it's like ochel lo muvushal וכולי. What about returning stuff to the plate? This is something that she started asking. A food that mevushal kol tzorko, that is completely ready before Shabbat, you're allowed to return it to the hot plate in a condition that it's still hot. Okay, you remove it. You were holding it all the time. You didn't put it somewhere. You were holding it all the time. And for the Ashkenazim, it says also it should be in the hand all the time, and you should have it in mind to return it back. Okay, so in these conditions, it's no problem to return food to the hot plate.
Sometimes happens that somebody will come to my house, let's say my brother, and he brings his chula. He covers it, like, I don't know what he does at home, but he covers it with all these towels, and they said put it on the black. When he comes to the office, put it on the black.
Okay.
Then
Last time, previous time that I had this shiur, so somebody asked me this question too. So we said that hot dish, we said before, you're not allowed to cover it on Shabbat completely. Remember? We said it before? Yeah. But later on it says here, I don't know exactly where, that let's say there's a problem and the stove turned off or the electric plate is not really working or something. So if it's still hot and everything, you're allowed to take this to a neighbor's house and to put it over there on the plate, on the hot plate. As long as, again, it's still hot and you didn't put it here or there. You were holding it all the time, and as long as it's hot, you're allowed to put it in there.
When people work with this 15 minutes, it's still hot?
If you feel that it's still cooking inside, it's so hot that it's cooking inside, it's okay. 15 minutes, I don't know. It says if it's yad soledet, inside.
Let's ask another question. People brought it and they tell you, we're going to put it on the fire. So, you let them put it on the fire. Are we allowed to eat from it?
So again, if food was cooked from before Shabbat, okay, depends. If the food was cooked from before Shabbat and it's still hot, and they tell you that they were holding it all the time, there's a way, for them definitely. So, okay, a food that was not prepared fully before Shabbat, and there was a problem with the outlet, with the power, and stopped working from some reason, and then started to work again from some reason. Okay, so food that wasn't ready before Shabbat, you cannot eat it on Shabbat. You can eat it on Motzei Shabbat. Again, if there was Hafsakat Chashmal, it stopped working, the lights, and so the hot plate didn't work for a while. The food was not ready before Shabbat completely. This food, once the power came back, you cannot eat from that on Shabbat. You can eat on Motzei Shabbat. But if it was cooked already and there was a problem, so it says, so the power started to work on again, okay? It was cold and became warm again. It says not to eat it when it's hot, but to wait until it gets a little bit cold, until it cools off a little bit. Not too cold, but not too hot. That's what it says. Okay. Now, are we allowed to stir? Are we allowed to mix the food on Shabbat? Okay? Now, I just want you to have something in mind. If you prepared food for Shabbat, chamin, okay? Whether it's cholent or svo, or doesn't matter anything. and you worry, you don't know how it's going to come out. You're having guests the next day or something. Put into your system, you never touch the food no matter what, even if it was cooked before or it wasn't cooked before. Put it in the, whatever happens already, you know. You don't touch food on Shabbat.
We can't look at it?
Huh?
We can't look
For what? What's going to help you? It's not going to help you so much anyway.
Wait, it's burning a little bit.
Said that. I'm just saying, whatever happens, it's better not to. Let me first talk about the laws.
Can't sleep at night.
Oh, yeah. Now, if the food is ready from before Shabbat, and he is on the fire from before Shabbat, it's allowed to remove some food from that pot, okay? But not to stir the food. When you stir, it shows that, you know, this part is not dark as I want, this, I want it to be, you know, and this is like cooking, it's not allowed. If the food is not ready, okay, you open it and you see that it's not ready, you're not allowed to remove food from there with a ladle, even if you removed it from the fire. Only if this food if it cooled off and it's not hot in such a yad soledet. Again, if you see that the food is not ready, you're not allowed to remove food from there with a ladle. Okay, you have to wait until this is going to get dry. If people, and this is something important to know, if somebody violated the Shabbat, if he cooked purposely because he wanted to cook it on Shabbat, he is not allowed to eat from this food ever. Not on Shabbat, not on Motzei Shabbat. To other people, it's allowed to eat from this b'Motzei Shabbat. Not on Shabbat, b'Motzei Shabbat, because he violated the Shabbat. Yeah, let's say a grandma didn't know the law or knew and purposely did some kind of a food. So she's not allowed to eat from this, and you're not allowed to eat from this on Shabbat. Okay? You cannot, this is something that I missed, I didn't say it last time in the shiur for some reason, you know, shiur was long enough. We cannot call a non-Jewish person to come and help us with a hot plate. You cannot hint to him also, come and turn it on because it turned off. Because you are not allowed to enjoy food that was warmed or cooked on Shabbat. The other things that we mentioned, you need the air condition, you need the heat, you need this, you can call a goy. But to turn on fire, you cannot, because this mentioned specifically on Shabbat. Lo tevaru esh bechol moshavotchem beyom Shabbat. So we cannot call a non-Jewish person to come and light for us the fire on Shabbat. Even for food, even by hinting, okay. And also another thing, we cannot turn on the hot plate with a timer on Shabbat. Yom Tov it's allowed, not on Shabbat. You cannot put the timer to turn on in the morning until afternoon or something, yeah. If the food is there from before Shabbat, it's okay. You're allowed to put a timer to turn it off, but not to turn on, because once it's turned on, we cannot use it on Shabbat anymore. Few more laws. If I can.
But let's say it's happened.
We're not allowed to put salt into kli rishon, into the source of the food, you know, the cholent or the osavo. Into there you cannot put salt, because you know, it's still cooking there. If by mistake somebody did put salt there, it's allowed to eat it, because today the salt is cooked and refined before, so it will be okay. Also spices also you don't put on kli rishon, okay? even you remove it from the fire, you still don't put it in kli rishon. You can remove it to another plate or to another, either you put it on a plate to yourself or to another pot. Over there you'll be able to put those spices. Okay, if there is a pot that stands on the hot plate and there's a hot dish there, and you remove the cover to see if it's ready or not. Oh, she left.
No, she's there.
Okay. And you realize that it's not cooked yet, you're not allowed to put back the cover on. Okay, because this is how you make it, you quicken the cooking of this pot. It's not allowed.
If it's fully cooked.
But if it was fully cooked, you're allowed to return it back, no problem. Usually also we cover it because there's a steam that comes from the we wipe it and put it back. A food that was not prepared fully before Shabbat, you are not allowed to bring it closer to the source of heat, or to bring it so it will get prepared quickly. It's not allowed. We don't pickle vegetables by putting a lot of salt or vinegar, okay, to eat, because pickling is like cooking. And so if you need to salt some vegetables one by one, or let's say if you prepare salad closer to the meal, not 2 hours before, half hour before people come from shul, closer to the meal, you put first oil and then some salt, then it's okay. But otherwise, if you have other pieces, piece by piece, you could put the salt, not everything in one shot. So it shouldn't look like you're pickling stuff. You're allowed to return pickled, whatever it's going to be, cucumbers or olives, or back to the original thing. We don't, sort them, but you can put them back. And if some of the vegetables were not 100% pickled yet, it's better not to put them back into this vinegar or salty water. Slow cooker will be the same like we mentioned before. If you put the food there from before Shabbat, for this to cook slower, it's okay to do, as long as you remove the knobs or you cover the knobs so you're not going to touch it, or cover it with foil so that you will see a difference between this and regular days and stuff like that. And also, if possible, the urn, you put water for Shabbat, it's better to boil them. They should be boiled before Shabbat. That's what it says. Let's finish with one last story, and then if you have more questions. Rav Kaplan, he was the rabbi of Tzfat. He passed away. When he was young, he lived in Mir. He learned in Mir, in Europe, and he was staying by a family. One Friday, he gets up in the morning. He sees that the father is living towards the market. It was a very important market, that place. And his wife is keep telling him, "Don't forget to come early. Don't forget, it's Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat." So fine. He went to the market. He went to his yeshiva, whatever. He came back early afternoon, and the woman is waiting next to the window. When is my husband coming? And he's telling her, "It's still early. Why are you so worried?" She says, "You don't understand. We have a story, so that's why I'm so worried." He said, "What's the story?" She told him that for many, many years they were not able to have children. And Baruch Hashem, after a while, Hashem blessed them with a child, but still this child wasn't that healthy. He had problems. He didn't develop the right way. They took him to this doctor, to this doctor. Eventually, they found that he has a problem in the heart. So the doctor, they took him to a very, very important doctor in Vilna, it's like a capital city. The doctor told them, he checked them, diagnosed the baby, the boy. He says he's not going to live for a long time. He has a couple of years and that's it. He won't be able to survive. the woman was devastated, the husband, and so people told him, you know, on the way to meal, go through Radin, in the small town where Chavetz Chaim used to live. Go and ask, get his blessing. Okay, so they get there, it's hard to get there, whatever, until they got into him. The rabbi says, what do you want me to tell you? The doctor already said, no, Rabbi, please, it's the only child, this and that. So the rabbi said, you know something, if you're going to take upon yourself to accept the Shabbat earlier, I could bless you that with the blessing of Shabbat, you know, that your son is going to be healthy. Otherwise, it's kind of hard. She says, what do you want me to do? He said, the table cover should be there already from noontime, and food is going to be ready, kitchen is ready, everything is ready, you're going to light the candle, and from the time you light the candles earlier, you're not going to do any melacha, you're going to accept the Shabbat earlier. It's unbelievable, she said, that as we came back to meal, the situation of this boy improved so, nicely. And after a while, when they had to come back to the doctor says, that's not the same baby. Who are you bringing me? That's not the same one. I cannot believe it. Baruch Hashem, there's a lot of miracles like that, and this is the power of the Shabbat. This is the bracha of the Shabbat. May Hashem bless us. We are going to try to keep the Shabbat. Hashem is going to guard us and keep us away from all kind of problems, disease, and yeah, Hashem. Thank you so much. God bless you. Yes.